What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to show you what we did to go from this haircut right here to this style. We're going to walk you through the steps. So if you like haircut tutorials or things about natural hair, there's some more content over on my channel, because we're about to jump right into this one. Here we go. So let me tell you the backstory first. I've never cut this client's hair before. So what we're gonna do is go in with a clipper halfway open instead of going in with a trimmer to set the bald line. So I don't want to make the bald line too bald or make it too difficult to get any trimmer lines out in my fade. So I'm starting off with the clipper halfway closed or halfway open, whatever you want to say, in order to set in this first line and start to clear out some of the bulk. As you can see right here, we are starting to sculpt this haircut into the shape that we want, that the client wants. So I have the trimmer all the way closed now, the clipper all the way closed. And there are a couple hairs, since they're coils, I'm just directing through. I'm just giving them a little bit of guidance through the clipper right there with my finger. So not pushing them through, but just making sure that they stay in the way and don't just fold over and not get cut. So we're going in with our first guard. This is our 1.5 guard, and we're just using this to continue to sculpt and flick out to create space to start our fade. So we're still sculpting and flicking out to create more space around this poof that we have around the ridge. So now, if you can see, we are starting our fade. So this is the clipper all the way closed, and we're starting to create a bald line, or a line that's going to be close to bald. If you notice, we are not going into this sideburn or the area right above the sideburn. We're leaving that dark, since we're doing more of a little custom fade for our client, because he told us that he was going to a party and he wanted to have something that looked pretty cool. So we're going to get him a custom haircut going. So now check this out. What we're doing is using clipper over comb on super curly hair. And for like boxes, high tops, things like that where you have a ridge, it's actually pretty cool, and it lets you create a little bit more graduation and have a lot more control on these hairs versus trying to freehand them. So go ahead and use your comb to grab these hairs and pull them out into the shape that you want. So once you pull them out, they'll pop back in after you let them go with the comb. So just to give you more space to work and to create a cleaner transition, you'll need to go ahead and use that clipper over comb. So if you've noticed, we switched directions and we're cutting with the grain now and not against the grain. So what we're doing with this is making sure that our shape is exactly how we want it when those hairs lay in the direction that they'll be laying naturally. So once we get this set up, if you see the dark part around the ridge, that is what we're going to start working through and making into an actual fade. So we're keeping the fade super tight around the back and the parts that are going to be skinned out, and then we're going to have that transition into the sideburn that's not going to be all the way to skin. So we got a low fade transitioning into a skin fade in the back. So this is actually my number 2 guard. We're going with the grain, and like we said, we're stretching this fade. So we want to stretch it in an angle. We're not stretching it against his scalp. We're stretching it in the angle that we already created. So that's why we did the sculpting before, so that we can stretch this in the angle that we sculpted it out. So if anything I said has been confusing, always feel free to leave a comment. I'll get back to you. But yeah, if you have any other questions about hair, there may be something that I've already discussed on a different video. So go over and check out those other videos. Subscribe if you like what you see. If you have questions about barbering, if you have questions about curly hair, it's likely that I've already dropped something addressing that issue. But if not, feel free, leave a comment, send me a message, check out my Instagram, any of that good stuff, and I'll be able to get back with you. As you can see now, we picked up our trimmers again, and we're actually making that bald line. We made that bald line in the back a second ago, and now we're cleaning it up with our clippers. We're keeping it, and we're cornering through these dark spots. We're making sure that we corner through the sideburn and just not taking it up too far. Here you go. You can see us setting in this bald line on the left side over here, and then we're just going to clean it up with the clippers afterwards. So you can see where it wasn't all the way bald because we played it safe. Since we've never cut this client's hair before, I would recommend that so you don't make it too bald, so you don't have space to make your fade graduate. So you don't want to have your bald line too high and then not have anywhere to graduate between where you made your bald line and the parietal ridge, which is where we're keeping this below. We're keeping this fade below his parietal ridge so that it pops and it still has like a fun, aggressive look to it. So I'm all about leaving space. We're setting in the bottom of his sideburns below his ear, and we're creating a little bit more space just so that, you know, once you edge it up with the trimmer and then you use your razor, you just want to make sure that you have enough space to tighten that up and make it exactly how you want it to be and not, you know, cut off too much. You know, you can't put the hair back on, but you can take a little bit more off. So, you know, I just leave a little bit more space at the bottom of the ear since we're keeping those sideburns and keeping it pretty tight and working on this custom fade design we got going on. So we're just making sure we keep the blends really blendy in between the skin to the sideburn transition. So we're gonna have to make that fade pop a little bit more once we get everything edged up with this sideburn that we're setting in right now. So we're setting in these C cups, and I'm gonna go ahead and just use this like a pencil. So using the corner of the blade just like a pencil to go ahead and set in the C cup to give us like an alley-oop for our vertical bars that we're gonna set in right after we clean off these hairs that are hanging over the front of his hairline. So we are just flicking these hairs out just like we were when we were sculpting earlier, making sure that we'll be able to see the most important parts of the hairline. So we're gonna go ahead and comb this down. We're gonna put on our little holding spray just to make sure that any of these little hairs that could come out in the next couple days don't come out. So if they are already laid down, we can cut them and make sure that they don't, you know, lay down differently later. If they do lay down, they won't lay in the direction of the hairline and come out of the hairline that we're creating. So for curly styles, using a holding spray helps. So if you missed how we did that on the left side, here we go. We're gonna line this trimmer up with his nose parallel and then move it all the way across his hairline into his vertical bar. So what we don't want to do is to have his vertical bar swinging out like an open door. We want to make sure that that vertical bar stays parallel with his nose so that it doesn't look like one of those really old people's edge up. You know how they like to just leave those bars way out. You'll see how it comes out. And again, if you can see on the C cups, we left a little bit of space for when we tap that in with the razor and make that the perfect shape. And then we'll just trim off any little overhanging hairs once we get done. On this haircut, we're going for a fully enhanced look, so we're going in with our barber pencil, and then we're actually using our glove just to go ahead and spread that barber pencil out a little bit. And we're using our trimmer as well as our glove because it's pretty much like contouring this hairline. So what we're going to do is use our glove, use our pencil, use our trimmer, use our brush to make sure that this line doesn't look crazy. You don't want to have your client walking out of your chair looking, you know, goofy just because they got a really bright white line on there. But hey, everything's preference. Do what you want to do for your clients, but my opinion is just that I want to create the most natural look that I can for my client and still have it look realistic, still have it have a bunch of contrast, and still have it look like a great haircut. And before we finish up, this airbrush is a master airbrush, and we're shooting Kiss Express and alcohol mixed through it. So just wanted to let you know what kind of airbrush and what kind of enhancements we use for this cut. And we're just tapping in his mustache and leaving that pretty thick since he has a more full facial features. Now we got our client tilted back for my favorite part of the haircut, the razor line. We're just pulling that skin until it's taut. But first, I just want to point out what we were trying to do with this fade. You see how it transitions from skin to a light fade at the front by his sideburn. That's what we were going for, so we have a bunch of contrast on his sideburn for this razor line. One other thing that you'll notice is that the sideburns are now right about at the bottom of his ear. So a little bit below the bottom of his ear, just so we've got space to take that to a super sharp point like an ice pick. So once we get this all the way tightened in, it'll be right around the bottom of his earlobe. So I kept this tight angle right here so you can see how you got to go ahead and pull that skin sometimes to make sure that you're not creating any discomfort for the client when you're getting those mustache hairs. So just wanted to keep that in there just to keep it top of mind whenever you're working on somebody's mustache. Told y'all we were going for a fully enhanced look, so the last thing we're doing is adding our fibers and our holding spray just to make sure that everything looks as natural and as full as it can. So I just wanted to walk through that part. We're gonna hit it with the blow dryer after that, but I also want to thank you for staying with us this long. If you made it to this point, you've made it to the end of the haircut. What we're gonna do is just get the hairs brushed off of them. We're gonna get the hairline dried out. We're gonna knock down any little hairs that are hanging over, and then we're gonna handle the mirror before we get them styled out. We're gonna style him out, spin him around, and show you the finished product compared to what it looked like before. So thank you again. If you liked anything, if you liked the haircut, please go ahead and leave a like. Check out some more content. And if you really like it, or if you really think you might get something out of it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'll be coming out with more content, more barbering tips, more things about natural hair. So just check this out. I'll be quiet and let you vibe out and check out the before and after.